Hello all, I'm Aviana Lemaire, and as opposed to my planned video for today, I would like to discuss how interesting it is trying to keep up with things. When you are in an autistic and ADHD burnout, and the rest of the world doesn't understand or says they don't, and you can't seem to get started. Now, I have been doing pretty well recently. Life has been very complex, and I have found moments in my days where I can rest and where I can regenerate. I have been spending an unnatural amount of time playing Stardew Valley, and I've been playing Stardew Valley while I've been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that's been relaxing me. And yes, I've been doing both. And yes, I've been halfway failing at each one, sometimes more, sometimes less. But it does something, and it helps me to have something to do. It gets my mind off of the things that have got me down. Anything that can get my mind off of those things is made of magic, and I will do. So, you get to a place with autistic and ADHD, which I want to call, I was going to say neurodivergent, but I want to call it ADHD because I like it and I like the sound. You get to the place with ADHD burnout where you can't function. And then you get to a place where if you're able to heal, you can function a little bit. I mean, for me, can't function is I can't eat and I won't choose to eat because I can't make a mug of coffee because the stuff that got me down is still there. And so making a mug of coffee isn't peaceful. And so then I can't remember how to make the coffee. And so then it takes me 20 minutes or so trying to figure out how to get the milk into the mug and warm everything. And I don't mean make a fresh pot of coffee. I mean fix a mug with otherwise completely prepped ingredients, including a previously brewed pot of coffee that's already made. Can't function is I can't make that coffee. Can't function is I don't know if I can pour water into a mug and microwave it and then plop some tea in it because I can't seem to get the mug together. I can't remember how much water to put in it. I'm too distracted and exhausted to figure out where the tea is or which tea to get, or, and this is very important, which tea is going to throw me into an immediate burnout. Not burnout, but sensory overload because the flavor is so hideous, and I don't really drink tea because I like it. Most of the time, I'm drinking it for my health, I'm drinking it for nutrients, I'm drinking it for my throat. It's not a love affair, it never has been. There are a few that I've loved, and most of them are just gonna hit me one way or the other. So if I pick the wrong tea and get upstairs in the feeling that I'm in, I might cry and fall apart and then not be able to function to an even higher level. I'll be unable to a higher level, meaning I will be able to function at an even lower level than when I could not make tea. It's the kind of thing where if I have to microwave a slice of pizza, I still can't get the pizza on the plate. I can't tell you how stifling it is. I want it to be understood. I've experienced burnout, I've experienced depression, and I've experienced that special mix therein where they're both happening at the same time. There's not that big of a difference. Before I knew what it was, used to refer to my burnouts as depression light because they were just so similar, but maybe depression had more of an edge and burnout had maybe a slightly more honed edge, not sharpened, but more honed, so it felt different. And it was remarkable in that it was the same, but just the settings were off a little bit. Like your favorite song playing over a program where the settings have been just tweaked. You know there's a difference, but you can't quite say what it is, and you know it's the same song, so you just deal with it. The burnout, I have happiness in my soul. For the first time since I was a wee thing, I have happiness in my soul, and the burnout has taken my ability to function on a daily basis to the point where sometimes I cannot make tea. I have gotten to where I can fix a breakfast, and that took a lot of healing. But my breakfasts have been toast, coffee, and tea. And I have found myself, because of an unfortunate living situation, standing in the kitchen trying to fix coffee, toast, coffee, and tea. I'm trying to say it in order. Just for me, if not for you, also for you, but mainly possibly for my own mind. The point is, I'm trying to figure out how to fix these three seemingly simple things, and I can't because there's too much going on. And this is because of the daily rigmarole. It's because of living in an environment that's not made of peace. It's because of other people's behavior not meshing with my needs for mental and physical and emotional health and spiritual health. It's because of a conflict. And that conflict causes that burnout to remain. Now, I've heard people talk about what it's like once you reach burnout and how long it takes to get out of it. I would like to place some responsibility on maintenance of burnout inducing circumstances where the thing that got you there did not go away or stop or lighten up permanently, but it maintains, for being a huge part of the reason why we can't just snap out of another thing that we're supposed to just be able to somehow snap out of or ease out of at a reasonable rate. It is not just as simple as something has brought my emotion, my mentality, everything about me down so far that I wake up and delve in and there's no way to get back out. It is about having something there that is now keeping you in that place. Some kind of weight, like a rock, is sitting on top of that place where you are so that you can't lift up again. It's maintaining the burnout. Things keep bringing it. Sensory overload keeps bringing it. Sonic torture keeps bringing it. I'm going to go ahead and place some responsibility on casual anti-neurodivergent abuse for maintaining it. I'm going to go ahead and place a skosh of importance with no apologetics made on individuals who need you to change for them to prove that you are worthy and that you love them. However, for every little convenience. But when it comes to the things that keep you from losing it and being unable to make tea for breakfast or any meal or hydrate in any way throughout that day, those things don't exist because you're being too sensitive. You need to get a thicker skin, whatever the case is. It's not a huge subject I want to get into, but this casual abuse thing is gonna always be a trigger for me because I have humanity and I dislike it wherever it goes. And these days, I love myself enough, again, that I can dislike it when it's coming toward me. So I'm not making excuses for those individuals, and I'm not making excuses in any way, shape, or form or apologetics. I'm just saying, when it comes down to my mental health, and I live in a state of love and peace. I'm a pacifist. I do not make war. I am a spiritual being on a spiritual track, on a love track, on a peace track. Why would I limit and hinder myself and my journey with this inferior behavior? I do not engage. I simply would like to feel okay. I would like to feel okay and have the same given to me. That's a lot to ask. I still would like that. And when I don't receive it, I find myself standing there for an hour in a haze. And some of it is because I just can't remember what I'm about to do. I can't see what's in front of me. The other day, I was trying to make coffee, make it in the coffee maker. It wasn't already prepped with me just trying to, warm it up in the mug. I was trying to make fresh coffee in a coffee maker, and I found myself in a haze, dissociated. I don't know if it was 5 or 10 minutes I was just standing there because all the complexities had left the room. I picked up my phone. I was finding something peaceful to listen to, some calming sounds. And when I came out of it, I suddenly realized that on a short ledge of maybe 2 or 3 inches in front of, maybe 3 inches in front of the microwave, which had an open door, the light was on that little ledge, I had an open, bright red bag of coffee sitting right there. I think it was bright red. I remember it being bright red. And I was in the process of making the coffee and literally could not see the bag until that time frame had passed and I had snapped back into the room. This is not because I was already burnt out. This is because of the sonic torment and the sensory torture and the things that were taking place. When you don't live alone, sometimes things take place. So it's not something where I could say, quiet it down, just quiet it down, turn this off, don't be so loud. It's not that kind of situation at all. So these things were maintaining my burnout state so that I was in the place I was in the day before when I couldn't function. I got up able to function and I was put back. Then I end up coming to where I sit down quietly, and before I can eat the toast and tea and coffee, if I'm able to get all of that, I sit in a haze for half an hour. I've got cozies on the coffee and, I cover the toast so it doesn't get cold and dry out. But I sit there for half an hour thinking I need 5 minutes. I end up setting this timer that, I don't know why 12 minutes is the number, but it's a 12-minute timer. I end up setting it, and then when it goes off, I reset it so I can zone out. I know I'm not going to zone out for half an hour because there's a 12-minute timer, but then it goes off and I reset it. So then it goes off again, it's 24 minutes. Generally, right before it goes off a third time, I start thinking, okay, maybe now I can eat. If we're going to be honest, I turn that timer off and I end up trying to set another one because when I'm in that state, I can't remember to put the food in my mouth. So I've got a 3-minute timer, and I tend to set it to remind me to take a bite of my toast or what have you when I'm in that place where I just can't function. I ended up setting that a handful of times, so before I actually eat, I'm finding myself calming down for somewhere between half an hour and an actual hour. That's not okay. And that's not just because of where the burnout is. For me, in my personal circumstances, in this moment where it's just burnout and not a crushing multi-decade depression, I'm trying to make sure I'm still recording. It would be horrible if I'd been missing all this. When I'm not also depressed, and I'm not now, I am happy and I have joy. And that's a big change. Maybe I'll talk about that someday. Because it was not always the case, and for most of my life it was not the case, but now I am happy and I have joy, and the burnout remains. It's like riding a crazy wave that peaks and goes down and peaks and goes down. And in those moments where I sit here with the curtains closed and the lights out, dissociating, trying, sometimes I can't even play Stardew Valley. I mean, I don't know who knows the game, Skull Caverns, that stuff can get stressful. But most of the time, this is autopiloting, picking up eggs from beneath your chickens. It's not necessarily going to take a huge amount of strategy. You're not trying to beat a chess master at their own game. But sometimes I can't do that, and I just end up pausing it, staring at the screen, or playing a day, which I am playing, but then I see how horribly it went, so I quit without saving. So I don't have to look at this game and remember my misery state and why I'm behind by a day. I turned the lights out, closed the curtains, go into Stardew Valley and end up dissociated, because when I come out of that dissociated state and I'm able to eat, my burnout has gone down. The misery has gone down. The energy has gone back up, but the burnout has come down to where I can deal. And right as soon as I feel I've eaten, my body has fuel, because sustenance definitely helps facilitate healing or function on any level. And footnote for having a bunch of interesting and negative experiences happen: first thing out of bed, before you've had a chance to eat or sip, drop number 1 of water or nibble number 1 of bread. Reversed, you sip the water. I would not try to sip the bread. Things would end badly, I'm guessing. I would advise against that. But long story short, that ship has sailed. It's not going to be a long story short anymore. It's just going to be a long story. I want it to be known, the burnout does not just come and then not go away. It's not like it's a state you can never get out of. It's just there are so many things coming at you, and they do not tend to go away. And for me personally, because of the living situation, I'm very aware of this. It's been a horrific week. And that's just been over the course of a year that's been really miserable. Really, it started getting terribly miserable the end of last year. I'm at the point where I can't get videos out every Thursday. That used to not be a problem. That used to be, I won't say easy, but it was easy enough and it was doable. And I used to have a backlog of videos. And for multiple reasons, I've run out of that. Some of the stuff I have literally isn't high quality enough for me to upload. And I mean, right now I'm just sitting in front of my phone because I say with love, everything else has gone out on me. So I've just decided to use the phone and be happy with it. That's what worked when I started. And I've got a point. So I'm hoping anyone who needs to hear it can listen to it while I'm recording on my phone again. I'm just doing what I can do to get things done. And I'm getting better on a daily basis, and then the environment around me is doing what it can to eliminate that. And I don't mind sharing. I'll say it once and then I will draw it away and focus on positive things, because I believe that your ability to think happy, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you relaxed, to not focus on the negative, if you can possibly avoid it, process it, but don't just focus and obsess over it, actually makes a difference. I feel the difference. So I'll say it one time. I'm starting to get afraid I'm never going to leave this burnout again. Unless and until I can work the 50 million miracles it takes to get out of the whole place where I live. And it's never been a good situation. I'm verging on 4 decades on this planet, and it's never been a good situation where I was alone and safe and peaceful. Or just safe and peaceful. In my mind, that's permanently linked with being alone. And there are multiple reasons for that, but I'm not getting into it here either. I'm sure some of us can relate. Perhaps I finished talking about it. It just needs to be said. Burnout is not just something you get into and then you can do the work all by yourself to get out of it, you dig out of it, or you just naturally heal. It takes effort to heal from a burnout. It takes time. It takes rest. It takes favor in some way. I'm going to use this because spiritually I feel if you can get a skosh of favor, if you can see the positive and loving and truthful and peaceful things I've seen in my life, I don't care if it sounds crazy. I've seen in my life places where I get what I call favor because I did not excuse me, get down in the ground and fight in the muck with the worst of them. I've seen it and I've felt it and it works for me. So that's where I stay. And sometimes, I mean, if you stand next to a puddle full of pigs splashing around in the muck, I defy you not to get some side splash while it's taking place. And that side splash makes that burnout stick. It makes it stick, it makes it stay, and it makes it even dirtier. So that's basically what I want to address. And I also want to put a fine point on saying if you're experiencing something like this, there's a pretty good chance that what you're experiencing is not your fault. Not only because it has something to do with other people's responsibility for actions, their ability to give what they require from others, and the way your brain is actually built, being perfectly different in its own way, requires as much inherent respect and love and care as all of the other types of brain who have been taught to demand it from everybody. We have not. Remember that you have not been taught to demand what you need. So if you don't know how, that is not your fault either. And even knowing what the word demand means in that way, that it doesn't have to be nasty or overpowering, we generally have not been taught these things. Not knowing is not your fault. I want to put that point on it because I think it's important. And the guilt I've been experiencing because I haven't been well for these days, where it's been really intense for these days, is overwhelming, and I don't want to see anyone go through that. Yet I know a huge amount of us are going through it every day. So I guess I'm going to keep going on in this way. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, and I hope it's all been highlighted in some way that makes sense. So once again, I'm Aviana Lemaire. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and that's about it. Bye now.